The oceans of ARK, a place where even the toughest and most cunning survivors dread to no end. A place where numerous monsters straight out of the depths call home. But now it's about time to change the tide by introducing a new fish to the pond. Monsters straight out of a B-movie with S-tier skills and a wicked intelligence to go along. Meet the Sharktopus, the hybrid responsible for spreading chaos and terror on land. And now it will be put into the test in the oceans of ARK. Will the hybrid rule the sea of monsters, or will its chance of victory sink with its lifeless body to the depths? Find out today to see if Sharktopus could rule the oceans of ARK. Let's introduce the new kid on the block. The best way to describe Sharktopus is the perfect combination of brains and bronze. For clarity, I will utilize the second Sharktopus as the original is pretty underwhelming in terms of overall stats and just overall showings. But her offspring far exceeded her own mother in multiple different aspects. For starters, let's begin with its speed. The original Sharktopus was able to blitz a great white shark, which are able to swim at speeds of 35 miles per hour, which is merely scratching the surface, as her kid is able to swim and even keep up with both, going between 60 to 100 knots, which is between 30 to 51 meters per second, and is able to keep up and even intercept the Barracuda, which can fly at a ridiculous speed of 200 miles per hour or 89 meters per second. Both ends are subsonic, granting her some very absurd speed. This level of speed is also accompanied by feats of strength, such as being able to destroy a jeep, which would generate small building level energy, and practically coming out unscathed without any meaningful damage. And as mentioned before, Barracuda is able to fly at 200 miles per hour. After a bit of math and number crunching, calculating this and that, Barracuda's weight would be around 700 tons. And by using the formula for kinetic energy, this would be comparable to over 6 whole tons of TNT. To add further consistency, Sharktopus was at the epicenter of an explosion that one-shot Barracuda. A one-shot is usually a 10 times difference in attack power, which would be 60 tons of TNT right into the face, and she survived. But this would only scale to her durability and not her attack potency, as she herself fails to one-shot Barracuda multiple times even when she has the ideal conditions on her side. As mentioned before, her IQ is extraordinary, being able to set up traps and ambush people consistently, even being able to be trained and create alliances with different species. We don't know how much battle IQ she has, as most of her fights she doesn't really demonstrate a lot of combat IQ on her side. While her IQ is undeniably absurd, that doesn't really translate to actual fighting genius. In conclusion, Sharktopus would be between city block to multi-city block in terms of durability, while her attack potency would be only large building, with subsonic speeds between 50 to 80 meters per second, and having an intellect superior to that of dolphins, and approaching human IQ. Now, for the opponents she will be facing. The creatures of ARK are already quite powerful themselves. This would be no different for their aquatic counterparts, which are just as impressive. And even though the classic volume multiplied by fragmentation value is no longer valid and replaced by a more accurate system, this does not mean that we cannot get our favorite creatures into the higher tiers of power. While the aquatic creatures in ARK don't have feats themselves, they do have a lot of chain scaling and statements that support them being about as high as large building to even multi-city block level. In order to scale the aquatic creatures of ARK, we first must mention the Tyrannosaurus, one of the most powerful land creatures in all of ARK, which is able to compare himself and compete with creatures who can have city block to even large building level feats, quite casually so and consistently. For example, the Triceratops and the woolly rhino are able to collide with each other, which would generate over 100 tons of TNT. That's city block level. The griffin, a creature that is inferior to the ARK Rex, can generate over 564 tons of TNT, which is multi-city block. And how does that scale to the aquatic creatures? That's because of a statement from the Megalodon. The Megalodon is stated to be almost as powerful as the Rex is on land, which would mean any creature that scales to the Megalodon or is relevant to him would scale to those metas. Sharktopus will be facing a gauntlet of the following creatures: Dunkleosteus, Megalodon, Plesiosaurus, Xiphactinus, To Squids, and last but not least, the ruler of ARK Oceans, the Mosasaur. So now, let's see if she can do it. The first opponent she will be facing will be the reinforced tank of the ARK Oceans, Dunkleosteus, which are able to crush rocks and oil formations with a single bite, and can even destroy stone structures, which, by utilizing Kuznetsov's method, which would yield about 4.6 kg of TNT. Not impressive, I know, but this is only the tip of the iceberg, as it is stated that only larger creatures can threaten them, meaning they scale to the Megalodon, which, as mentioned prior, scales to the Rex, which has large building metas. However, the Dunk is less than quick, to say the least. So in a 1v1 fight, the Dunk's durability is really going to be overtaxed, giving the opponent the actual edge. And due to the fact that the Sharktopus is much more intelligent, it is very likely that Sharktopus will exploit that to its absolute extreme. So with mid difficulty, Sharktopus moves on. Next up is the T-Rex of the sea, coming in schools of 3 to 4, on its own an already powerful adversary, but with a pack on their side, things take one hell of a turn, as they are able to swim at 35 miles per hour, and that is without mentioning their bites that can cause severe hemorrhage and blood loss to any adversary. Although less threatening than a Dunk individually, in a school things change dramatically. In an average group of 4, each member would be amped up by 120%, and their durability would also be increased by 33%. Although still more durable, she still lacks the firepower to put them down quick enough. However, with an agent speed and IQ, she can win the long game. Despite her outstanding durability, if she drags the fight for too long, the damage will eventually stack up, and slowly but surely her energy will begin to deplete, and eventually this would give the Megalodon the win. However, if she exploits her speed and superior intelligence, she is more than capable of defeating a school of 3 to 4. So, with barely any chance, she moves on with extreme difficulty. Coming right up next is the Loch Ness Monster. In the middle of the sea, don't question it. Well, the Plesiosaurus is a weird case. It is likely between the Meg and the Mosa, but that said, this guy is really no pushover at all, being able to swim at 33 meters per second. Unfortunately, that's about it. It's not exactly really good in fights. It's actually pretty underwhelming in general. So this is really one-sided, unfortunately. Meaning with mid difficulty, Sharktopus moves on. Now for her most vicious opponent, the one and only Dread Tuna. Fast, agile, and deadly. The average school is between 3 to 4 members, and similar to the Megalodon, they receive a 30% amp for each member of the pack. Not only are they fast. They're also extremely crafty bastards. Their ability to nash opponents allows the entire group to benefit from their attack, as they will become faster, more durable, and will also receive a health regeneration, which will only increase their longevity. And in this case, Sharktopus durability will be pushed to its absolute limit, and with this Xiphactinus increased longevity, power, and durability, this will only guarantee their victory. And despite her multi-city block level durability, the lack of attack potency on her side takes away whatever chance of victory she might possess. So unfortunately, the hybrid shark won't stand a chance. And well, this is where her run ends. But let's entertain the idea she somehow convinced a bunch of mechs to fight by her side. So she somehow defeats the Xiphactinus school and moves on.
She also loses, but let's pretend she doesn't.
Now she stands before the ruler of the deep sea, an opponent that far exceeds her normal capacities. Mosa's scaling far exceeds even the Megalodon itself, with the gap between stats being a 2.5 times multiplier, means that the Griffin's feat of generating 564 tons of TNT would become 1,140 tons of TNT. The Mosa is more than capable of keeping up with his opponent, as he is able to keep up with the Tuso, who can also be quite fast itself, meaning that even with speed, she would not be capable of defeating this foe, as not only do they match in speed, his attack potency is more than enough to overtax her durability, and despite lacking actual combat abilities, he doesn't need them. He's far more powerful, and her playing defensive won't really help. So in the end, the Mosa wins with low to mid difficulty. In the end, despite her going as far as she did in this gauntlet, she was not really quite able to clear it. However, her performance was actually quite impressive, all things considered, for a creature that pretty much only has a handful of movies to work with. While her performance would probably be even worse if I didn't guarantee a small Megalodon pack to work with her, I would say that she would really be still in the Xiphactinus. She wouldn't make past them. The Tusoteltes is even worse because that thing can even overpower a mosasaur. The Tuso doesn't scale to the mosasaur due to the Mosa having better actual narrative on his side. So in conclusion, this was a very fun video to make, and I thank everyone for watching. Be safe everyone, because unfortunately this will be my last video on ARK. I hope you guys enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.